Welcome into Texans Today. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs. We'll get to the latest Texans news and rumors in just a moment. But first, I gave you the gauntlet yesterday. You answered the bell. We got about 100 subscribers from yesterday's video, but the job's not over. Job not finished. We still got a ways to go to beat Titans today. My boss said, hey, you want to do a watch party? You want that time slot this Sunday? Prove it to me. And I said, you know what? Texans fans, they got my back. So prove me right. Prove you got my back. Prove Texans fans are here to stay. We're loud. We're proud. We're ready to root on our Houston Texans. Go down and hit that sub button right now. On today's show, we're breaking down the latest Texans news and rumors around the injury report, and I'll give you a little keys to victory at the end of the program. And first, we got to start with the biggest storyline with the Houston Texans right now. It's at the quarterback position. Davis Mills most likely going to be the starter this Sunday up against the Tennessee Titans. CJ Stroud dealing with that concussion that he suffered against the Jets this past weekend. Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator, when asked about it in today's press conferences, he had this to say. You always want to call a game to your player's strengths, and that starts with the quarterback. On his game plan this Sunday, and it 100% starts with the quarterback. It starts with this guy right here, Davis Mills. He mentioned Mills' ability to throw the ball on the move. So that's, whenever I heard him say that, I was like, you know what? Expect a lot of play action, expect a lot of rollouts, moving the pocket with Davis Mills, because that's where he feels like Mills is at his best. And you know who else he mentioned in this same press conference? Case Keenum. He talked about Case Keenum being an NFL veteran, being able to own the play calls, own the calls at the line of scrimmage, and how Keenum can probably bring something that Mills can't bring, which is that experience and knowledge of the game. So that brings me to this question. If you were in charge, if you were the one calling the shots for the Houston Texans, who would you have under center this Sunday? Obviously, CJ Stroud is out, so you got these two to pick from. Davis Mills, type DM in the comment section. Case Keenum, type CK. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if YouTube throws an ad break here, perfect timing. Go down and give me your answer right now and pick a quarterback. For me, I still roll with Davis Mills. I mean, I know a lot of people are clamoring for Case Keenum. A lot of people want to see the veteran, the former Houston Texan from his early days, go out there and show what he's got. But I think at this point, you still got to give Mills the nod. And I think he's at least earned that. Now, if he plays awful in the first quarter, first half, I could 100% see them throwing Keenum in there because he's definitely ready to go whenever his number is called. But to start the game, I'm going with Mills. That's not the only injury news we have on today's front. Aaron Wilson locked in with the Houston Texans. He had this to say on Nico Collins. Nico Collins making progress from that strained calf per sources, but not ready to practice yet. Not a good sign on Thursday if you're not practicing for a game on Sunday. So the last time the Texans' leading wide receiver strained his calf this season, he missed a game. It's a similar diagnosis to that time. And he went on to say also that MetLife Stadium had something to do with this injury, or had something to play with this Nico Collins injury. He's doubtful for Sunday, so I am really upset if this is the case, if Nico Collins is not able to play, because he's the number one receiver. He's the guy that your backup would be looking to for the number one option, and if he's not able to go, it's just another knock on this Texans offense. And Bobby Slowick, he's going to have to come up with some creative ways to get other guys involved if Nico Collins is out. And along with Nico Collins, another guy who got hurt from the MetLife turf this past weekend, that's Will Anderson. He was in a walking boot today, diagnosed with a high ankle sprain after getting hurt against the Jets. The artificial turf at MetLife Stadium considered to be a factor. I mean, this is just absolutely brutal. It's like every player that is the best on the Texans roster is getting injured at the worst time possible as the Texans are trying to get into that playoff run. Will Anderson, also doubtful for Sunday, was not able to practice today, obviously, in that walking boot. And I'm just ticked off. I'm ticked off that the NFL continues to just allow players to just get torn down at MetLife Stadium. It is an absolute sham. It is an absolute awful thing that the NFL is doing, having these players risk their lives playing at MetLife Stadium after we've seen the first drive of the season, Aaron Rodgers tears Achilles, multiple players injured at MetLife, and players around the league know MetLife is the worst stadium to play in if you're trying to stay healthy. So, if you agree with me, if you think the NFL should just tear that... I almost did it. I almost cussed. They should tear down MetLife Stadium. Go down and like the video right now because it is a travesty that our players have to deal with this and are getting injured at this point in the season because they have to play in that shitty stadium in New Jersey. And along with more injuries, Blake Cashman and corner Tavierre Thomas are out this week against the Titans, both with strained hamstrings. I mean, Blake Cashman, your number one linebacker, that's a huge blow to this linebacking room. He was going to, hopefully stop Derrick Henry. Hopefully stop Tyjae Spears out of the backfield. No longer this Sunday. It's going to be on the shoulders of Christian Harris and Henry Toto. And Tavierre Thomas, even though he got replaced by Desmond King, it's never good to not have depth in your cornerback room, in your safety room, in your secondary in general, because those guys, they shuffle in and out all the time. But Tavierre Thomas, he's going to be out this Sunday. Coming up, I have some keys to victory for the Texans going up against their division rival, but I got to show some love to our sponsor of today's program, and that's Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS, code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my money this football season. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stat types, and place your entry. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. And like I said, it's as easy as this. You just choose 2 or more players from any sport. It could be basketball, it could be football, it could be hockey, it could be fighting. I know they have MMA on there. Whatever you fancy, they have it over at Prize Picks. And as easy as picking more or less on their projected stat types, and then you place your entry. Easy as that. Like I said, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. Now, the Texans' keys to victory this Sunday. First off the bat, run the dang ball! Bobby, what are you doing? Run the dang ball! I mean, we've seen it. The Texans, ever since Dameon Pierce has come back, they've just gone away from the run game completely, and they're like, you know what, Dameon Pierce is back. Let's just not use Devin Singletary. No! Run Devin Singletary. Feed him the rock. Whenever he was the RB1 for this team, 2 straight games over 100 yards. The offense was humming ever since Dameon Pierce is back. Devin Singletary, his workload has gone down, and the Texans' run game has suffered. Bobby, if you're watching this, run the dang ball. And we talked about Prize Picks earlier. So I want to ask you this Prize Picks related question. More or less than 65.5 rush yards for Devin Singletary this weekend. Type in for more, type L for less. I really think if he's able to get more than 65 rushing yards this Sunday, that's a great sign for the Texans offense because they're going to need to lean on that run game with backup quarterback Davis Mills in the game. And to go along with that, you can't play scared. Don't play scared. That's my second key to victory for this Texans team because honestly, I just already know. With a backup quarterback in, this team is going to go conservative. The playbook's going to shrink. It's going to be different with Davis Mills than C.J. Stroud, obviously. But what I don't want to see is this team playing not to lose and not playing to win. You still have to go after the Titans secondary. Their secondary is maybe their weakest part of their defense. Their front seven is very good. So if you're afraid to take some deep shots, if you're afraid to take those shots on the outside, take those shots over the middle, you're going to lose this game. So even if Davis Mills is in the game, you still got to take those shots. Even if Davis Mills throws a pick in the first half, still take those shots because you're not going to win this game playing scared. I know that for a fact. My third key to victory for the Houston Texans, got to stop the run. Derrick Henry, he is a beast. He's an absolute workhorse. There's a reason why they call him the king this season. 214 carries, 875 yards, 10 touchdowns. A sneaky good season by Derrick Henry this year. And along with him, the rookie Tyjae Spears has absolutely having a year this year for the Tennessee Titans. You see these stats, pretty good on the ground, but also a extreme weapon for the Titans out of the backfield in the passing game. Maybe their second best receiver behind DeAndre Hopkins, who we'll get to in a moment. But I talked about it earlier. Blake Cashman out with injury this week. It's going to be on Christian Harris, Henry To'oTo'o, and Denzel Perryman. They have to step up. They have to be able to not only stop the run, but also be able to, take Spears out of the passing game, make sure they're not using those running back screens and getting the ball down the field. It's going to be a lot on this Texans linebacking room, but with DeMeco Ryans, a former linebacker, I expect these boys to be ready. And my last key to victory, it's going to be a revenge game. You got to take D-Hop away. I know the Texans traded him away for a bag of peanuts, but regardless, you got to shut down D-Hop. And I'm looking at two guys in particular, Derek Stingley, and I'm also looking at his counterpart on the other side, Steven Nelson. Both playing very good for the Texans this year. Both corners having great seasons. And along with that, this safety room is absolutely torn and tattered. DeAndre Houston Carson, injured, is probable for this weekend. I hope he plays because he's been really good for the Texans this year. Jimmy Ward, Jalen Petrie, your starting safeties. Adrian Amos signed earlier last week, but this safety room is going to need to step up, give those corners some help over the top because DeAndre Hopkins is going to want to take the top off the defense. Those are my keys to victory, and that's it for today's program. I appreciate everybody who joined us today. If you haven't already, follow me on Twitter at Jeremy Chuggs and subscribe to the channel so we can have a watch party this weekend. I want it so bad. I want to root on the Texans with thousands of you in the comments section. I appreciate everybody for rocking and rolling with me on today's video. If you made it to the very end, drop those H's down in the comments so I can show you some love.